Well, good evening, folks. Mike here from Just Car People Things. We're a few days into the ownership of our 2006 Mazda Miata with these kind of ugly coney wheels. So we're working through some issues with the car we've identified. Some of them are really minor. And I did something dumb today and I had to fix it, which was I actually blew a fuse, and that's my fault. I was messing with one of the lights, the dome light inside the car, and bridge connections, and popped the fuse and killed the radio and everything else. I haven't replaced a fuse in a car, I think, in probably 15 years. So that was always a good experience. This whole big garage and shop and all the tool bins and everything else, I didn't have a single 15 amp fuse. So that triggered a trip to the parts store. So we got that fixed. But one thing I've noticed on this side of the car is that this door handle is loose. Right here, you'll notice that this is not appropriately attached to the car. I'm a little nervous about this because you could have water intrusion into this space, down into here or whatever else. So what I found when I was washing it, and this is going to sound like a real laugh, I was detailing the car. We're going to open the door all the way here. I was detailing the car, and I noticed when I reached down here in this bottom drain, I actually bumped what felt like a loose nut. And my guess is that nut that's sitting right down there in that little base down there is the nut that goes in the back of this door handle and actually secures it to the car from the inside. So I think this is a pretty straightforward fix. I did look up how to do this in the repair manual. It's a really easy process to pop the door card off. You start off up here, you use a trim removal tool to sort of get into this guy here and pop it loose behind here. So I gotta just kind of get onto this, and I think it just sort of levers out from the look of things on the internets, but we'll give that a shot. And then this guy here pops off somehow or another too. And I gotta sort of see how that pops off there. This is supposed to lift off. And then there's also a relatively easy to remove screw right down here. I don't know if you guys can see that inside of there. Maybe my head's in the way with the shadow, but right down in the cup holder. So we'll start by removing this guy here. And just, I like these little short screwdrivers for working on trim projects, because you tend to just have to like get a screwdriver into some not so easy places to get a screwdriver into. Like right here, this would be really, really hard with a traditional screwdriver. I don't think the angle would allow you to actually get on this. Maybe it would, but we'll just unscrew that guy right here. And that releases, it's almost completely out right now. There it goes. And you can sometimes get in there just with your fingers to finish it off. Make sure that's loose, and that releases the cup holder inside there. And we're gonna crack this off here. I think it looks like it just levers, kind of levers out somehow. And I love these non-marring tools that are really handy for this, because you're not gonna, ding anything up, and there's really no penalty to wrenching on it pretty hard sometimes. But we'll get in there and see if we can't pop this guy apart. If you really are struggling and you just can't seem to get it with the non-marring, you can always go to like a long screwdriver and just sort of try to sneak that in about popping that loose. And there it goes right there. So all that took was just a little screwdriver, English, and that popped that guy loose. We'll throw that right in our handy cup holder. Again, we're back in here with this screwdriver again. You could probably use just like an impact on this, but I think that's a lot of hassle for what is functionally 3 screws, which shouldn't take you longer than a minute or two to get through here. There's the one. It's a beautiful, beautiful night here tonight, and so you will hear the motorcycles behind me. Not something you get here in the winter. Sometimes if the screw gets stuck, you can use your long screwdriver. I recommend a really long screwdriver. Actually, if I had a Phillips, I'd probably even use a Phillips too. And then a really short one for this type of project. And that should start to lever all this stuff apart. Let me see if I can't get behind this now. That plastic piece was a little unforgiving. There it goes. So this levers out of there. And you can see we didn't make any marks there. If you wanted to, you could actually even cover the tip of this with like a masking tape. That also helps and works. So that just sort of snaps in there, and then that reveals our last screw. So we can just get in there on that and spin this out. And once those 3 are out, this whole door should remove. It's kind of interesting. This is a 2006 Miata, so it's the first of the NC Miatas. The NBs had almost, this might actually be the carryover part from the NBs. It looks super similar. I've had 3 NBs and I've never had an NC, and this feels kind of like home to me. But of course, the rest of the car, ignore all my junk in the passenger seat here, is much more modern than an NB Miata. It feels much more substantial to work with and live with here. But now you're supposed to sort of start working from the bottom. This is where that long screwdriver is going to come in handy here, and you're supposed to sort of pry or pop, and there goes the first one. You're not breaking things. I know that clicking sound is super scary to the uninitiated, but that's kind of how these work. And you just want to work the screwdriver down, and you'll eventually get across, and you can start using your hand. You need that extra leverage of the screwdriver for the first one. This guy should almost lift right off, just like that. And I'm wondering, I'm just looking at this thing here, where that door handle is in relation to some of the other parts on the car. So we've got the whole door mechanism, and I don't know if I can even, wow, can I even get down in there to work on this? So, well, let's do this. Let's start by removing the door card itself. And we'll just need to pop all these connections loose for the electrical. So here's our tweeter speaker here. It's actually mounted in the plastic of the door. And a lot of times there'll be connectors just like right on the relevant components. This looks like it snaps out, but I don't know if I want to go too hard on that. That might be enough to let us work here and sort of see what we're working with. Grab my flashlight and take a look at this. So let's see where we're at with the door handle. And oh, it does not appear that there is a nut on the back of that. That's really interesting. Why is that loose? Did they glue that almost? Interesting, Mazda. Sometimes choices are made that you just will never understand. Well, this obviously takes a lot of force, and I wonder if there's like a wedge that goes on there. I felt a nut down in the bottom of this window, and I feel like I need to put the window up too. But let me tinker with this a little bit. Might need a like a magnet, a fishing magnet, to go find that nut that's in there. I don't know if it's a nut, but maybe it's like the wedge that goes on the back of that. That's kind of a surprising design to me. I hope you guys can see that in there, but this is just loose. And I really don't like the look of that because, you know, this mechanism pulls in the door. It's got a nut over here and seems to be appropriately secured on where the key would go, right on the other side. But there's no securement here on the back side of this, which is really surprising to me. It seems like there would be a nut or a bolt that would go through that to sort of hold it into place, but I guess not. So let me do a little digging here and see if I can't figure this out, and then we'll go from there. All right? Cheers, guys. Okay, folks, we're back. Managed to get the door card fully off. This is a Grand Touring model, so it's got a tweeter speaker right here. It also has some window control switches, or door lock control switches that was there underneath. And then you actually push this forward from behind the panel. It indexes out and pops out, and this is your actual door handle. I'm looking at this here and kind of looking inside here, and I'm hoping you guys can see. But you might notice that what looks like a piece of glue dripping down right there, just to the right of that handle. I'm hoping you can see it. Maybe the camera can get in there, POV style. That glue is not supposed to be there. That glue is actually supposed to be a bolt, and you can sort of see there was a bolt there. My gut is that it might have stripped out. So there's supposed to be a bolt inside there that holds everything together. It either stripped out or went missing, and it's hiding somewhere down here, way down here in the bottom of the door card. I've not managed to find it yet, but it's apparently down there somewhere. But what I want to do is I want to take this apart to the point I can look at it. So what was recommended to me online was to kind of move this up and out of the way if you can. Might even grab a piece of tape or something just to hold it out of the way. But avoid the black plastic glue on this because it's very sticky. It's like a nasty kind of stickiness to it, and this will stick right back on there, trust me. So you're gonna just set that right there upright so you're not in too much trouble. And now you can actually get a pretty good look up into there and service up in there. So I think we're to the point where we're probably gonna wanna put the window up. And I'm gonna do that real quick here and see sort of what we can see. And also need to go fishing way down somewhere in there and see if I can find that loose bolt that I heard rattling around in there. So I can't visually see it right now, looking down in there. But I would hazard a guess that somewhere in the bottom down there is the bolt that fell out of that hole. And if we can just rip that glue out of there, that you actually even see it's built up on the outside here, in that little slot. Hoping you guys can see that. And we might even be able to just pry that glue out of there. In fact, that's a good question for our friends at Benchmade here. We can turn the light off. Don't need that for the very second. Is can I pop that glue out of there just kind of gently? And it's pretty hard stuff. It looks almost like they used like an epoxy trying to fix this, and that is not the way to go on fixing this. It's never going to hold in place appropriately, and now is going to have to be removed in a way that I got to be really careful with the paint. Maybe I can pop it out internally and the outside will pop off, but let me put the window up real quick. Grab the key. I solved a water leak issue yesterday, so that's air drying right now with that fan, but we're going to put the window up. Okay. Might as well just leave the key right there. Let's not kid ourselves. And let's see if maybe we can't see down. I've lost my line of sight because this is kind of dirty inside, but let's see if I can just feel up in there. So there's that epoxy. Boy, I almost wonder if I'm gonna need to like get a hammer and just a long screwdriver and almost chip that out of there. But all right, I'm gonna go deep sea diving here to see if I can't find that. Oh, and there's that super sticky black glue. Cool. I love getting that off my arm hair later. But let me go fish and see if I can't find this this part that I'm missing. I want to see if I can't chip that epoxy off as well inside here. Might just take a screwdriver and a hammer and kind of tap at it a little bit and see if we can't just get rid of it. So we'll go from there. But going well so far. Really straightforward job. I think I'm probably 15 minutes into this, if that. And so if you're replacing one of these door handles, obviously you've got the mechanism here on this end, and then of course that connects back through. There's an access for a bolt like right here, an access for the other bolt, and then the third one you should be able to, I can get my hand on it right here, and that allows that whole thing to come apart. So I'm actually wondering if I might even be useful to just pull this whole panel off. This all appears to be I had a 10mm over here. This all appears to be just 10mm stuff, but on the black, this piece of black plastic that contains all of your wiring harnesses and everything else. So very Mazda, real slick, extra light, all that good stuff, but there appears to be some bolts. So I think I'm just gonna pull that real quick, see if I can't see inside there and find that part, and we'll go from there. So I'll be right back. Okay folks, well the excavation of this door continues, but I have joyful news. I think I'm actually done here for the moment, which is great news, taking stuff apart. So there are 13 of these 10mm bolts that hold this plastic panel on, that holds our speaker on, our wiring harness, and kind of all the internals and what allows the door card to attach. There is also one screw that goes through right over here, and I actually don't know if that really went into anything now. Or actually it does, it goes right there. So there's one Phillips head screw, small screw, and I also had to remove the clip for the window motor, which is right here and sort of fits back up into place. Then there were two lift-off plastic clips that slotted onto there and onto there. But I reached my arm in there and I didn't find anything. And I'm like, oh crap, I swear there was something rolling around in there. And folks, here we are. I don't know if you can see down in there, but we are about to say hello to my little friend. And I have a funny feeling that that is the exact same size as right there. And I'm gonna chip that urethane out of there and see if we can't get this reinstalled. And of course, in true Mazda fashion, that is also a 10mm bolt. Bless you guys. So easy. All right, so what we're gonna do, and actually I can put this plastic black piece back on now and avoid getting more of this nasty, nasty, sticky, gunky pine tar, whatever this is, adhesive that holds that piece in place on my hands. I'm already going to be covered in it. Well, let me see about chipping that little urethane off there. So my gut is, this is a really short bolt, and it's got a lock washer, it looks like, on it, or a second washer. Yeah, it looks like a lock washer. And that lock washer is completely crushed flat. So my gut is that this went in there, and at some point, you know, just through vibration, this door takes a lot of vibration being outside on the hull of the car between the wind and the, you know, a Miata being low isolation. My gut is that this simply rattled right out of the back of that spot up there. So I'm gonna go chip that urethane out of there and see if I can't get this reinstalled. My gut is what happened originally, this fell out. It fell down into that channel in the bottom of the door. It's gone forever. Someone didn't have the world's most basic set of hand tools, a couple screwdrivers and a 10mm socket. And I've been at this, TC9 bronze diver for you guys. I've been at this for about 25 minutes. So I wouldn't take it to a shop to figure this out. I'd probably just take it apart myself and see if I couldn't figure it out. So I'll chip that urethane off there, maybe like a pair of side snips or something up in here might kind of pop it out, or a screwdriver. And then see if we can't get this installed back into there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this actually goes somewhere else or fell off something else. But it does appear that this bolt actually matches the other two bolts that hold the pull side of the handle on. So we'll go from there. We'll be right back with you guys as this project continues to get deeper and deeper into this car. And the nice thing is I did open a really nice workspace here to work on this, and you can hear how loose that handle is. And that urethane is like on there, so like wrenching on my thumb, it's not budging. So maybe we'll get like a hammer and tap it, or maybe a pair of side snips, and we'll go from there. Be right back. So I'll give the credit for the folks that had the car before. They definitely put a really gnarly urethane adhesive on the car here and tried to like dot it in so it would latch onto the threads inside of there. Not a bad idea. This is like a 2-part epoxy. This is like the stuff you'd probably get from one of those companies, you know, like you know, like it looks like a syringe, and it was probably mixed together and then applied there. But the good news is, and I'm actually going to remove the hat here, the camera on it, see if you can see this, but up in there, right there, we now have an open bolt hole, and I can see the threads inside of there. So we are going to put our handy dandy POV cam back on here and simply see if we can't get up in there. I'm going to avoid putting Loctite on this. I just want to see if it even hooks up. That's probably a good question. So there's the hole right there. And that feels like threads. Hey. All right. Very cool. Oh, we got a bug. That is now threaded fully back in there. So I'm going to actually take the socket. We're still lefty-loosey here. We want righty-tighty. There we are. See if I can't get the socket up in there. If not, I need to just get an extension. Where did that go? Now I've lost it. The fun part about flying blind in these projects is you really sometimes do end up flying blind. I just don't feel like I'm getting on it here. Am I on it? No. Not quite getting it in there. So I'm just gonna grab like a really long extension here. So we're getting past the most basic of hand tools, and now we're moving to phase 2 of the basic pile of hand tools. Oop, wrong drawer. Which is one of these. And a lot to be said for grabbing the 1/4-inch size instead of the 3/8. Lord help me. We are flying. I think that's what I'm looking for right there. Okay, cool thing about these little extensions is if you pop them out, you get wobble. If you push them in, they're squared up. So I think in this scenario, we want to go with the wobble. This isn't like a high torque kind of thing. So I tend to find if you take your fingertip, find the nut or bolt you are working on with your fingertip, you can essentially slot that right on, and you can see that just locked up. And now we are going to torque that baby down. I want to be kind of careful because it's plastic. We're screwing into plastic on the other side, I think. So I want to put good torque on it. I want to make sure it locks up and it's not going to vibrate out, but I also don't want to go ping and strip through a bunch of threads. So, quick question. Here's our $1 million question. Did we fix it? Let's take a look from this side, folks. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And you can see we now actually have a functioning door seal right here. And that's it. I think we're good. That felt good on torque. It's into plastic, so I just don't want to put the torque of God onto it. So now from here, the process simply goes in reverse to put everything back together. I'm probably good with my flashlight. Should always carry a good light. And we'll just sort of lift this up. We'll get these guys kind of out of the way. And this then sort of slots onto those white hangers that are right there. Sometimes it can be easier, depending on what the mechanism looks like, to actually pop these out from the backside. It really depends on how they're connected on the back and what it feels like. I can try a trim puller tool on them and see if they'll ping loose. So I do have a trim puller tool. I used it the other night on the carpet. We had, again, a leak catastrophe with clogged rain rails and me doing a pretty thorough pressure washing of the car. But what you do is you just take this guy, you get underneath this, and you lever, and these will usually just pop right out like that. And of course, you're going to lose it on the floor. But the way you reinstall these, once they're popped loose, and this guy will do the exact same thing, you'll just hear it go ping, is you actually take them and you put them back into that slot. They go right back up into there and they sort of snap in. These are usually what goes on first on the factory. So at the factory, when they take this big panel and they say, oh man, we got to slap this panel into place, they start by pushing it up and sort of snapping those two right in. And now that's held into place. We'll want to reconnect our electrical right down here. We're going to take our Phillips screw, our single Phillips screw that went right there. Okay, tight. Now we're going to just do a quick double check here to make sure our sanity is intact. This goes back out and through. This goes to the door locks. This goes to the tweeter speaker. Everything is intact here. We are good for the moment. So we can start taking, and we don't necessarily need our giant monster extension anymore, but we can start taking these and threading them back in. If you're feeling in a hurry, this is an absolutely great job for an impact driver. You don't have to put the torque of God onto these. You literally just need to go zip and just have them in. But we can start hammering away and putting these back in. There's 13 of them. I'll get most of the way through this and realize I missed one and have to go back. But they don't need a lot of torque. You're just securing plastic, and this kind of has a little bit of a seal on it anyways. So this isn't something like, you're not putting 100 foot-pounds on these babies. You're putting maybe, 20. Just a, good snug is more than enough, because the plastic's going to sort of bind to the metal and hold it in place. So you just kind of want to get it tight enough, kind of like that. You don't need to kill yourself here doing this. But man, that was a cool fix. I can't believe I found that bolt in there by literally, I was running my washcloth trying to get this drain cleaned out down there and just bumped into it with my fingertip and hurt it in that drain. So sadly it wouldn't fit out of that drain, so I had to take all this apart. But that's a really good tip for all you guys out in Mazda land. If you're having this weird problem with your door handle, don't hesitate to take the door card apart. This is not, I think I'm 35 minutes into this job right now, and I'm rounding third base here, putting things back together. So this is a sub 1 hour fix, for the car, and I've never done this before. I literally looked up in the manual how to take the door card off. This is pretty straightforward stuff. You will be able to figure it out if you've got any mechanical wherewithal. So torque all these down. You are going to want to make sure these are good and snug around the speaker, just because you don't want that speaker to be rattling and vibrating in the door, and that's going to sound kind of gross and nasty. So just give that a good snug up. We're in the right spot with this wiring harness. That's where it started before. That's one of the big things to check. You don't want to pinch your wiring harnesses. There's actually a channel for that wiring harness right there. But You don't want to have to do this again in a week. It's a real pain in the butt to do it again in a week when you find out it's rattling like crazy and your door card sounds just awful. So we've all been there, I'm sure. But this is my first NC Miata. I've had, this is actually our 6th Miata. In chronological order, year order, I've had a 91 that I actually co-owned with my dad. It was kind of a project car. I've had a 97. I had an M edition. I've got a couple photos of that on the wall because I used to race it. That was a really cool car. I bought it kind of out from under somebody. Really low mileage, really clean car. Needed some love, but had a high cool factor. And then, God, geez, I've had a few others too. I had 2 99s. Let me make sure I find all these. Okay, there's one right there. And I'm going to end this now with 2 2 spare nuts to figure out where to put them. Okay, that feels good and snug right there. Where did I forget the other 2? One right there, hiding. Oh, and there's one underneath here. That's actually the last one I forgot when I took this thing off. So I'm showing you in reverse. If you have trouble taking this off and you're watching the video, just play this part backwards. That's pretty much how it works. I didn't want to show you 10 minutes of me just screwing in nuts and bolts here. This is not exactly rocket science, but we'll just get that guy good and tight. And now what I like to do is just make sure I'm not leaving any parts out in front of me here. And so the way this works for this door card to be reinstalled, let's check the back of the door card, make sure we're good. It never hurts to like give things a good brush down and make sure you're not just putting stinky crap back into your car. You can see the connections for the door lock right here and the tweeter speaker right here, and then this indexes through just like that. So it actually fits through sideways. And you flip it over and you sort of knock it back into place, so it'll actually fit just like that right back into place. I like to tilt the door card towards me, and that gives me good eye line into putting the somebody's jalopy rolling past, and then lastly the tweeter here in the door, and that's it. This is going to then hang back into place, and once you sort of get it situated, like you can see, like suddenly it'll just like sit, you know, like it's sort of in the right alignment, like right there. And so you see it's hooking up with the trim there, it's hooking up with the trim here, and suddenly boom, that's how it's supposed to look. What you do is just give it a good whack, and that now means that all those panels that are in there, all those catches that are in there, are back into the right spots. So we'll just grab all of our appropriate hardware here. I did drop one, yes, right there. Of course, I'm slacking and I shouldn't have. This guy goes in the cup holder because it's dark colored. This guy, the bigger guy, goes right here, and then the little guy goes up here on top. So let me just set those right there. I even got a shelf. And we'll get to the moment of truth here shortly. And the last Miata I owned, the 5th one I owned, was actually a 03 special edition. That was a really cool car. It was the dark blue, like sapphire kind of blue paint, and that was just a really neat vehicle. And sadly, well, we sold that one. I had a 99 10th anniversary. That one was also blue, had the full blue interior. I only owned that car for 28 days. I had a teenage girl rear-end me at high speed about 15 years ago now. So I walked away. The car, as you can imagine what a Miata might look like after a Ford Explorer hitting it going 50. There was not, sadly, much left of that particular Miata. Cool thing is, the guy that bought it turned it into a low cost, which was very satisfying to me to sort of see its beating heart live on in another cool vehicle. But let me see if we can't get this squared up, and there we go. That's hooking up. So we're pretty much done here. I gotta throw these 2 trim pieces back on and make sure we're all snapped in. We can just give this a couple more turns. That feels pretty solid to me. Check all these guys nice and tight. nice and tight. These don't, again, they don't need the torque of God on, they just need to be tight. So that snaps back right in there. This guy snaps back right on there, and we're good. So we're gonna check. Door lock button works. That's a really good sign. We're gonna check and make sure, let's check us for window function. Make sure we're windows going up and down before we go too far here. Perfect. And then the last thing we're gonna check here before we go too nuts, move that out of the way. We're gonna make sure we didn't screw this up. 1, 2, and 3. Beautiful. Just how it's supposed to be. Very, very cool. That's it, guys. We managed to fix it. I'd imagine we probably just saved something like over $100 in labor from the dealer, just alone from a dealer, maybe more, probably $200 in labor. We've got the most basic hand tools in the world, probably the only real specialty item. Didn't end up even using those picks, I just had them. Was this trim puller. These are like $3 on Amazon or wherever else. I'll put a link to one. The rest of this stuff is all stuff you could probably get in the most basic of toolkits. You can get these little wedges to pry trim off for like less than $1. So super cool. We fixed our door handle. We're not gonna have water intrusion into the vehicle anymore. Things are looking good, and we're very glad you could tune in. If you're still with us, this was a little bit longer of a video. It turned into a little more of an involved project than we thought it was gonna be, but that said, car's looking good. We got it fixed. Everything's awesome. Cheers, guys. Have a great night. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll deliver more cool content like this as we work on all of our cars here in the garage. It's pretty cool having three sports cars, 2 roadsters, all 6-speed manual rear-wheel drive. This is going to be my winter daily. What more could you ask for in the Midwest? So, all right. Have a great evening.